I am not excited to watch this video because I have avoided the Weston Chandler thing completely. Because to be completely honest, the stuff it really just grosses me out. And it doesn't really feel like national news. And that's not to say I've never covered things that are not national news, but usually when I don't, it's something that I want to be fun. Not about a person raping their own mother. But Blair White has decided to make a video on it. And I'm interested if the point of her video is going to be, hey, everybody, sexual assault's bad and rape is bad. End video. Or there's going to be a wider point to it. If this is going to be like buck breaking Tariq Nasheed style. I'm genuinely interested, so I did want to watch it quick. I've not pre-screened it.
My YouTube channel. So if you've watched me even just casually throughout the years, you would know that I have covered some of the most depraved, interesting to say the least, just gutter butt individuals that exist on the internet. And I've chronicled people like Jessica Yaniv, people like Stefankny, and honestly, I felt like I had kind of been desensitized to the black abyss that is humanity. I just really thought I had seen it all. But according to you guys, in the many DMs I've received over the past few days, I have in fact...
Why is it specifically that Blair White was asked to cover the story? I never got a single DM. Not a single one asking me to cover Weston Chandler. Not a single time. Never. What is it about Blair White that made everybody send the story to her so she can denounce this individual? What's the difference? Does anybody at home have any ideas what the difference might be?
Not seen at all. And speaking of Jessica Yaniv, the story that we're covering today does mirror Jessica Yaniv in certain aspects because Chris Chan, the subject of today's video, is trans. And the reason I say trans is because this person has self-identified as a tomgirl, intersex female soul with a male body, a tranny crossdresser, and a lesbian identified male. Not to mention this person's alleged...
I don't understand how this is difficult for Blair White. As far as I know, they identify as a woman. Therefore, they're trans. I don't know why you needed to add all of that in there. It's really not that important. They identify as a woman, they're trans. It's that easy.
Transition consists of piercings, wearing menstrual pads, taking medication to treat menopause, which is not recommended or useful for transition, cutting his own genitals with a box cutter at home because the internet told him to, claiming to be trans to, quote, get more girls, and being the wife of the Pokemon Mewtwo. So...
Wow, that was really funny. Yeah, there's somebody with a lot of mental issues. Anybody, and I've known about Weston Chandler for a very long time. Anybody who's been on the internet for like, I don't know, 2 seconds and has dug a little deep in there knows that they have a lot of mental issues and that the internet has made it a game to mess with them. So again, but I don't know why any of this would make it trans. They still identify as a woman. And is Blair a trans medicalist? Like, you have to go through physical transition in order to be trans? Because I don't know why bringing that up specifically would put a question mark at the end of it. Because there's a lot of trans people who can't afford medical transition. And if anybody's followed Weston Chandler long enough, knows that Weston Chandler has had a lot of economic issues in their life and has begged on the internet for money for a very long period of time.
Now, Chris Chan is often referred to as the most documented person on the internet. Although it may be a new name to some of you, to a lot of you, you will know that he is actually very internet famous, and his antics and criminal history and posts and just everything. Every interaction he's almost ever had is documented on the internet, to the point where...
Could you imagine if every single time a gay person did something bad, somebody sent me a story like, Dylan, you need to cover it? Like, imagine like if like when Ed Buck did his terrible actions, everybody just went to my DMs like, Dylan, you must cover Ed Buck. You must cover Ed Buck. Cover Ed Buck. Or if Pete Buttigieg did something wrong, Dylan, you must cover Pete Buttigieg specifically. To be fair, you have been covering Milo. Yeah, that is true. I do cover gay people sometimes when they do bad things. But it'd be weird if every single time a trans person did a bad thing, you sent the story over to a trans person, asked them to cover it, or every time a gay person did a bad thing, you sent it over to me. Like, I've covered Milo because I find Milo interesting. But there's a lot of gay people who've done bad things that I haven't covered. I don't actually have many videos. Like, Pete Buttigieg has done good and bad things. I haven't made videos covering Pete Buttigieg doing really either. I don't think I have a single video on my channel about Pete Buttigieg.
Where there is a series on YouTube going on part 60, I believe, right now, and all the episodes are really long. Like, it's a whole thing with this mother. So why am I here talking about Chris today? Well,
did she just censor herself when she's going to be talking about rape? Like mother rape. And she's censoring the word fuck. Okay.
Chris was trending on Twitter just a few days ago, and I noticed...
Why'd she add a heart next to Chris Chan trending? Okay. That's a little... Okay, well, that's her business.
This, and I have heard the name kind of off and on throughout the years because, like I said, he is quite well known. Previously, I had not really dove into the entirety of his history online, which I did last night, and I'm wearing 10...
She did not, by the way. She did not dive into the entirety of the history. The amount of time you would need to take to dive into the entirety of the history of Christine Weston Chandler, depending on whether you're a prick or not, which word to use, it would take you months. Literal months. Again, Christine Chandler is referred to as the most documented person on the internet for a reason, because there's piles and piles and piles of documentation. Baby photos, their time in elementary school, their time in middle school, high school, their local stores, the Love Quest saga, Sonichu, not only Sonichu, but their time at college and the smashing of the PlayStation and all the different trolls. And there's so much information that the idea, no, I did not dive into the entirety last night, okay?
10 pounds of concealer because I have dark circles up
Yeah, last night I read the entirety of War and Peace, and I'm gonna give my review on it now.
to here. It is haunting me. So I see Chris Chan trending on Twitter, and I look, and it's because of a leaked audio in which Chris admits to raping his 80-year-old mother.
Okay, so she also censored rape. Okay.
With dementia. I then go to Chris Chan's Twitter profile, and Chris follows me. I think I'm going to delete my account. Now, this story is rapidly developing, but as of yesterday, Chris was actually...
Well, do you know why Christine Weston Chandler probably was following Blair? You want to know why? Because Christine Weston Chandler has a long history, and I mean, I don't know if... This is a great freeze frame, by the way. If we can make a emote of this, it'd be great. Of racism and homophobia. No joke. There's a whole arc with Christine Weston Chandler about her being extremely homophobic and pretty racist. I remember back when they were doing the Love Quest, they would go to different stores with a sign, okay? They would have a sign on their front, and it would say all the qualities they wanted in a girlfriend. And one of them was like non-chocolate, and it was like no homos. Just none. So it isn't hard for me to believe when Christine Weston Chandler was going on one of those rants, stumbled upon Blair White's page. That's quite interesting to me. Maybe they checked that one panel where you were told to shave your mustache by that one candidate who ran in Delaware, and the whole time you were nothing but, yes, please, give me more abuse, as you were humiliated by your fellow conservatives.
Arrested for this, which, hallelujah, how many times is there never any justice served?
I don't think Christine Chandler has the mental facilities to be considered homophobic. You can be mentally ill and still be homophobic. That's not... You can still be mentally ill and homophobic, yes.
For things that happen on the internet, like we see so often with Onision, with Yaniv, they keep escaping the justice system, but hopefully this is going to be a different scenario. So I'm going to play the audio clip that was leaked of Chris admitting to, again, raping his mother, who has dementia, 80 years old. Like, the thought is disgusting. And the audio clip is pretty disgusting too. So that is your fair warning.
Yeah,
She's censored. Why is she censoring? Whatever. Can we skip through this? Do we really need to listen to this? I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to listen to this. But we don't need to listen to it. Okay, we're gonna just skip through it, all of it. The whole point is, in the audio, Christine obviously admits to raping their mother. Yes, that's what's in the audio. You don't need to listen to it to know that. Like, you don't need to watch a beheading to know that somebody was beheaded.
Things I've ever listened to. So immediately after this audio was leaked, which, by the way, I cannot confirm like who leaked it, who knows, but pretty much immediately the internet obviously and justifiably went into an uproar, and I can only imagine how many calls were made to the authorities. I mean, you have elder abuse, you have abuse of someone who is not all there, obviously having dementia, and I don't know if you guys have ever known anyone that had dementia, but it's incredibly sad. And the thought of violating your own blood, your mother, when they have dementia in any way, like nonetheless, but in any way, is sickening. And frankly, Chris Chan deserves to be locked behind bars forever. Like, clearly he's a blight on society. Clearly society would only stand to gain by having him removed from it. I mean, I would say this is like the bottom of the barrel of morality, but it's not even in the barrel. It didn't even make the cut to be inside the motherfucking barrel. Flash forward to yesterday. Chris is being arrested outside what looks like a Motel 6. Like, what is this building? And apparently, despite being arrested for the rape of his mother, he seemed to be in good spirits.
and I continue to stand strong, and I maintain everything with quick fill and my side shoes and nose shoes and everybody.
Yeah, you're live to about 3,000 people right now, Christian.
How do you believe?
Well, don't. You're taking everything in stride. You said you're doing good?
Yeah, I keep it good faith. Everything is going to work out.
Again, they are mentally ill. They probably don't realize the severity of the situation. They are severely mentally ill.
Doing good, feeling good?
Well,
How's the last few days been? I know it's been pretty stressful.
it's stressful, but I've taken it one moment at a time, and I got my loves.
And you want to know what part of this story, I mean,
They don't understand. I'm. My God, these freeze frames on Blair. She is mentally ill and she says wild things all the time. Yet if she claims she raped somebody, everybody takes her seriously. Okay, wait. I don't care how bad or mentally ill someone. If somebody claims to have committed a crime, you need to arrest them and look into it. If everybody found out, if tomorrow something happened to me that just completely changed my mental facilities, and then I claimed a bunch of wild stuff, you'd still have to look into it. You just look into it. Definitely, since Christine Weston Chandler most certainly has the ability to have done the crime in question. They do have access to their mother. If she claimed to have, like, sexually abused Queen Elizabeth, then yes, you could dismiss it. But this is something that is in the realms of reality. You do need to take it seriously.
all of it is maddening. But the part of the story that is just a little cherry on top of a horrific, disgusting situation, the part that just makes me want to drive my pink car off of a cliff, is the fact that Chris was actually filed as a female for the mugshot and will likely, because of that, be placed into a women's prison. So a fully intact biological male raped his mother Okay, and is then placed into a women's prison. Congratulations, society. Congratulations on this just miraculous nosedive that we.
That's the big kicker for you. The big kicker for me was the rape. Was that this long internet tale that was Christine Weston Chandler that I was having to explain to a fellow streamer of mine, because I actually like, because you know, when I was a teenager, I was a dumb kid. I found a lot of really gross stuff funny, and that I looked into when I was younger. I had to explain this stuff to people. This was the kicker, that the end of this whole Christine Chandler legacy and story was this disgusting ending, right? That is what's the kicker for me. Not that they are going to be detained as a female. What do you think is going to happen? Because let's ask then. The issue of the whole, this is not that different than the whole like trans bathrooms debate, right? Okay, so let's talk about what would happen if Christine Weston Chandler was placed in a men's prison. What would happen then? Walks in, long hair, feminine clothing, presents as a woman, pronouns she, her, and also has many mental illnesses, including high-functioning autistic, right? How do you think that prison would treat her? Now, of course, you could say, well, I don't care about the condition of evil criminals. Sadly, everybody has a right to fair treatment in our criminal justice system. I'm quite sure, due to the mental issues that the person is facing, that they should have a close eye kept on them, and that everything will be fine. Thing is, there's no scenario, because the other scenario that would happen if we were talking about, okay, then what if we put them in a male's prison? Would be 10 times worse than anything you could come up with in your head. Because prison culture is not very loving. This is no different than the trans bathroom debate. Could you imagine if we made everybody that presented and identified as a woman just go into the men's bathroom? And what do you think could happen there? A lot of beatings. That actually could lead to a lot of sexual abuse. So as an institution, if somebody identifies as a woman, presents as a woman, and lives their life as a woman, putting them in a female prison makes sense. Putting them in a men's prison makes no sense. What do you think's going to happen there? Definitely when we see the high rate of rape in male prisons. Now, and there's also rape in female prisons, to be clear. But when you're different in that way, they're going to be more targeted. There's no good scenario here. The scenario that you would be advocating for here could be just as, if not, in my opinion, more damaging. And please, nobody in chat tell me there's not a rape problem in prison, okay? There is a rape problem in prison. And I understand that some people could not care about the condition of said person who committed said crime. And on an individual level, you don't need to, but that is the job of the criminal justice system. That is the job of the criminal justice system, to give everybody a fair trial and fair, uncruel treatment. Cruel and unjust treatment is something that is not supposed to be done against people. And using rape or these types of abuses that could occur in prison as a punishment for people falls under that clearly.
We've taken as a whole. 2021, gotta love it. It's also worth
like please tell me what's going to happen. Can you show me any examples of trans women going into women's prisons and doing tons of abuses? Is there any statistical evidence that this happens on a widespread scale, or this is a real big issue? Or is this just something to just, fearmonger?
noting this is not Chris's first incident of assaulting someone. There is actually a video of him macing a GameStop employee seemingly unprovoked And the GameStop employee doesn't seem to be anywhere near Chris to warrant any type of physical self-defense. And as a result, Chris was arrested.
Don't call anybody.
And that was the bar too.
Now, a perhaps obvious piece of information that is relevant to the story is
It's kind of new. Don't act so confident. Okay, but you're creating non-existent problems. There's a non-existent problem here. And until there's a problem, I'm not going to care. Why would I care about this person being placed in a women's prison if no one has presented to me why it would be a problem?
is that Chris is autistic. And I have seen some people, not the majority by any means, but I have seen some people saying that this behavior is the result of him being autistic and that it might not be true, that he actually has done this to his mother because...
No, I think that's bull. If you want my honest opinion, I do think they did this. I think the audio evidence is pretty condemning. I've seen people say they're mentally ill, but they have the means to do it. Now, is it possible that they're lying? I mean, yeah, but they also have the means to do it. I mean, we should wait for the court to play out, but if you wanted my personal opinion, I do think they did it.
Autistic people might lie about that. And my whole thing is, have the people who are saying this ever met an autistic person? Because I know many autistic people. I have people in my family who are autistic, and they don't do the kind of shit Chris does, and they don't lie about stuff like I don't understand how being autistic makes you more of a liar. Like, what does that even mean?
If anybody's been following Weston Chandler for a long time, you would know that this person is unwell, deeply unwell, and that they have lied about a lot of things. But again, that's not evidence that they lied about this. And I have no reason to believe that they lied about this.
Also, to my knowledge, Chris is high functioning, so it's even more of an insult. Like, you think high functioning autistic people behave like this? Like, and there is another sizable chunk of people who, you know, their main takeaway from hearing about a horrific and violent rape of an 80-year-old with dementia is that we should be using the right pronouns for Chris. We shouldn't be misgendering Chris. There are a lot of people who their only opinion on the entire...
It's not their only opinion. But it seems that a lot of people are using this as an opportunity to misgender a trans woman. That's what it seems like, right? If you want my opinion on it, it's terrible, it's awful, and it shows the terrible ending of an online internet phenomenon that's been going on for the last 10, 15, 20 years. But you still shouldn't misgender them. I'm not saying this person deserves special treatment, but you're perpetuating a treatment of trans women by doing that. It's not just affecting Christine Weston Chandler, whatever name you want to call them. It's affecting everyone. Everyone who's trans, because you're perpetuating the idea that somebody's pronouns only matter until they do something disgusting, right? For example, I'm gay, queer, whatever you want to call me, but I'm in the LGBT whatever umbrella. Who cares? If someone walks up to me and calls me the F slur.
A curd is a curd.
Ham_monkey $10. So what prison does Blair think female-born lesbian rapists should go?
I don't know. This Guantanamo Bay. I don't think she thought that much into it. And somebody calls me the F slur, right? Somebody just yells the F slur at me, right? And it's because I did a terrible crime. You don't just get to start throwing slurs around because somebody did a terrible crime. Now you could say, but this person did something awful. We don't need to respect them. Okay, but just understand that you shouldn't be going after somebody's sexual identity or gender identity when they do something bad. Go after the bad thing they did. Not to mention, this could affect other people because you're normalizing the use of that type of language. You're normalizing misgendering people, and if you were to say something like that to me, you'd be normalizing homophobia and throwing slurs at LGBTQ plus people. Now, to be completely honest, This is not the thing I most care about in this whole scenario. What I most care about, somebody who is a survivor, is that somebody seems to have been raped. And that's awful. God awful. I hope the full force of the law comes. But let's also not pretend that this is okay to do. You can say that your emotions got the best of you, and I think most people would understand. But it's still not okay to perpetuate transphobia.
Higher thing.
And the thing is, I haven't even given my opinion on that until she brought it up. Showing again how much I wasn't even thinking about it.
Like, their only statement on their Twitter feeds or their TikToks or wherever the fuck they're talking is that we should be using the correct pronouns for Chris. And I'm kind of like, what exactly does it say about you that upon hearing about such a horrific thing, your only thoughts are about pronouns? And then you wonder why no one takes you seriously. Sweetie.
So, okay, so that's not a counterpoint. That isn't a criticism. That's just, you're talking about the least important thing so I can continue doing the thing that I can't prove is not bad, right? For example, right? Let's say I go and I do 1,000,000 bad crimes, right? And one of them was kicking a puppy. But that's not nearly as bad as me burning down the orphanage. If somebody criticizes me for kicking the puppy, your counterance for you shouldn't be, well, why are you criticizing that thing? You should be criticizing all the worst things. That's not a counterance. That was a totally okay thing to do now. You're not saying that. You're not proving that what you're doing is perfectly fine. You're just saying, I know what I'm doing is bad, but I don't care because what they did is worse. Okay, buddy. Okay.
This has become such a common thing that people are making memes about it. And honestly, it's insulting that anyone would even consider Chris to be trans. I mean, I'm personally insulted by that.
Well, I don't care. I don't care if it insulted you. I don't really. The thing is, you seemed a lot less insulted when you had right-wingers walking up to you in this podcast you were a part of. Republicans who ran for office in Delaware saying that the best thing you can do for the conservative movement is become a man and shave your mustache, and you sat there and you didn't say anything. You just took it. You allowed them to perpetuate transphobic narratives while you sat there to be their punching bag.
A curd is a curd.
So what offends and doesn't offend you on the spectrum is so drastically off that I don't care.
But I'm going to give these people the benefit of the doubt that if they actually knew what Chris's transition consisted of and how it's not, and the reasons why Chris is trans, which is admittedly to get more girls, that's not what trans is. And if you think that's what trans is, again, I'm offended. So if you're...
The thing is, ultimately, you cannot look into the mind of any individual person and say you are trans or not trans. Definitely somebody who has deep mental problems like Christine Weston Chandler. Somebody who never got proper help for those mental problems and were put in schools and institutions that did not give them that proper assistance and never seemed to have gotten the proper health care for what would be necessary to go through the process of checking for, like, if gender reassignment surgery or gender reaffirming care was needed. And somebody with those deep mental problems going through the transition steps that they went through makes sense if you consider the fact that they never got proper mental health care and they haven't been given really any care when it comes to gender affirming care. It's not that surprising that somebody who was screwed with the internet for basically the entirety of their adult life and been made a laughingstock on was tricked by the internet when it came to this transition, not by making him her, whatever you want to call them, transition, but by saying, oh, just use a box cutter. Raping your own mother is absolutely worse than misgendering someone. I hope everybody can agree on this. Yes, of course it's worse. Of course it's worse. but that isn't a justification for you doing something bad, right? Again, people, the puppy kicker thing, right? If somebody next to me did something very terrible, and while me criticizing them, I kicked a puppy. Now, what they did was obviously worse, but me saying, well, what they did is worse after I kicked the puppy doesn't justify me kicking the puppy. And she's not even justifying her misgendering. She's just saying, well, rape is worse. No one was ever going to argue that rape wasn't worse.
Your priorities are so bent that you hear about the rape of an 80-year-old woman with dementia and your only statement is please use the correct pronouns. You know what I mean? Like, not has anyone checked on the mom? Is she receiving medical care? Not wow, that's messed up. Nothing. Just like, please say she. Girl, bye. Obviously, though, in my opinion, the trans aspect of the story is really just the backdrop.
So why did you cover it, Blair? Why is it always that when you cover these stories, they always just so happen to be trans, Blair? Every single time. That you only cover these stories when it's like this. Did you cover Matt Gaetz? That's a real question. I covered Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz is a sitting politician. A sitting politician who's charged with sex trafficking. Let's check. Let's check if Blair checked on Matt Gaetz. Matt, we'll just look up Matt. No, it's I want my gender back. Teen detransitions. I transitioned at age 10. Talk with trans teen. Molly Unionopolis comes out as straight, ex-gay. Okay. I just find it a little interesting that it's always these stories that get covered, not the ones of actual national importance.
Tells me this saga is very far from over, but I personally will be stepping away from even reading about it because it's a lot. I'm moving to Austin, Texas in a couple weeks. I have
He has other trans people to cover.
a lot of really nice things happening, and the darkness, just stay away from me, darkness, please. Even though I look like a witch right now, darkness.
Can I say how difficult? Can I also say something how difficult it is when it's very difficult to have a conversation about a person when you and the other person are using different names because you get tripped up very easy. And this has happened multiple times where I'm talking about someone and I'm using the transition name, Christine Weston Chandler, and they're saying the dead name, Chris Chan. And so I'm sitting there, we're trying to refer to the same people, but we're using different names and we keep tripping each other up. It's super difficult to communicate when you're using different names because people just want to be stubborn.
Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel as well as my second channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and also subscribe to my Patreon for my exclusive Blair White.
Like, imagine when you were talking about Dylan, just half the people in chat said Bill. And then you all just started tripping each other up. Even though my name's Dylan. It would be super confusing.
Project podcast. The latest guest was Tommy Vext, who is the lead singer of Bad Wolves, and we talk about cancel culture. We talk about his experience leaving the band, being in the
Wow, really the important issues. What is Blair covering these days, actually? Unironically. Oh, exposing Jessica Yaniv trans predator. Well, that's the main video on their channel. Let's see. Exposing trans predator. Another one. Okay. Influence who transition to a non-binary. Asking people at Pride how many genders there are. The woke white saviors of TikTok. Talk with detransitioned woman. Response to Blair White hates non-binary people. Caitlyn Jenner's run for governor is The rise of the neo-pronoun trans. Reddit is protecting trans predator. Trans. Where are the positive stories about trans people, by the way? Are there any? Why are they all just negative story after negative story? Every single one is just a negative story about a trans person. You ever gonna be like, trans person saved a kitten from a tree? Trans person taught school children to tie shoes. Trans person read a book to a kid. Like, nothing like that. It's all bad trans person, trans person, predator. It's always that. And so let me just be clear, like, the reason why I rolled my eyes when I figured out that she was going to cover this is because this has always been her game, and she shouldn't be surprised that she was on that panel with all those conservatives at the end of this lonely road she's chosen, where they told her that the best thing she could do is grow out her mustache and transition back to a man. That when you make content like this constantly, you should not be surprised that those are the type of company, those types of people are the type of company you keep. Shouldn't be that surprised. If every single one of my videos was just like attacking or going after or whatever you want to call it, just random bad gay people, like, I wouldn't be that surprised if at the end of the lonely road, I started a podcast with Redneck.